You think I'm just your little secret, don't you, Damien? The barista who brews your coffee and warms your bed while you chase the spotlight. Lyora's voice sliced through the alcove's dim haze, low and laced with the chill of shattered glass. He froze mid-kiss with Vivian, her crimson lips still hovering near his throat, his hand buried in the cascade of her auburn waves. The gala's distant jazz pulsed like a mocking heartbeat, but here, in this stolen corner of crystal and lies, the air thickened with the scent of spilled champagne and raw betrayal. Damien's hazel eyes snapped to hers, gold flecks dimming under the weight of exposure. Vivian pulled back, a smirk curling like smoke, but Leora's gaze pinned him, unyielding, electric, the sapphire at her throat gleaming like a blade drawn in moonlight. "All those nights you whispered my name like a vow," she continued, stepping closer, her midnight gown whispering against the floor. "While plotting to trade me for her ambition. Say it, darling. Admit the ordinary wife was your perfect cover." His mouth opened, but no defense came, only the slow unraveling of a man caught in his own web. Welcome, my captivating souls, to Mr. Cael Stories, where every whisper of the heart unfolds into legend. If you're a cherished subscriber, your loyalty lights my world. Thank you for journeying with me. And to you new dreamers tuning in, wrap yourself in this tale. Hit that subscribe button now, and let's weave romance's spell together. What secrets would you guard for love? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Your stories fuel ours. Like if betrayal's sting ever tested your fire, and share with someone whose heart needs this spark. Stay enchanted. The truth awaits. The rain had just begun to ease that drizzly Portland afternoon when Leora first crossed paths with Damien Crowe. She stepped into the corner coffee shop on Burnside Street, shaking droplets from her wool coat, the kind of place where locals huddled over mismatched mugs and the steam from fresh brews curled like lovers' breaths in the chill air. At 28, Leora had already mastered the art of blending in, faded jeans hugging her hips, a simple sweater draping her lithe frame, her raven hair tied back in a careless knot that belied the hours spent coaxing it into waves. No one here knew she commanded boardrooms from afar, her decisions rippling through Hail Dynamics solar ventures like sunlight across vast arrays. She was just another face seeking solace in caffeine, sketching wildflowers in her journal to quiet the empire's endless demands. He sat at the corner table, elbows deep in blueprints, his broad shoulders straining against a threadbare flannel shirt. Damien Crowe, 32 and burning with the fervor of untamed invention, scratched equations across a napkin with ink-smeared fingers. His hazel eyes, warm as aged whiskey, flicked up as she passed, catching the curve of her lip as she bit it in concentration. "Those petals," he said, voice a gravelly drawl that cut through the hiss of the espresso machine. "They twist like they're hiding from the wind. What's their story?" Leora paused, pulse quickening under his gaze. No one had ever noticed her doodles before, let alone spun poetry from them. She slid into the seat opposite, drawn by the spark in his eyes, the way his mouth quirked in challenge. Maybe they're not hiding, just waiting for the right storm to unfurl them. Their laughter mingled, easy and electric, the first thread in a web that would bind them tight. Over the next hour, conversation flowed like the Willamette outside, meandering, deep, alive with shared dreams. He spoke of solar grids that could cloak cities in clean light, banishing blackouts with elegant arrays. She confessed her love for botany's quiet revolutions, how plants taught resilience in root-deep silence. By closing time, numbers exchanged felt like vows. That evening in the loft above his garage workshop, the air hummed with possibility. Rain pattered against the skylight like impatient fingers, casting silver patterns across exposed brick walls, cluttered with half-built prototypes. Damien pulled her close by the workbench, his hands, rough from soldering wires, cupping her face with a gentleness that stole her breath. "I've been sketching cities all day," he murmured, lips brushing hers. "But you're the blueprint I didn't know I needed." Their kiss ignited slow, exploratory, tongues dancing in tentative hunger before deepening into something primal. Leora's fingers tangled in his tousled chestnut hair, pulling him nearer as she backed against the scarred oak table, tools clattering to the floor in sweet disregard. He lifted her effortlessly, settling her on the edge, his body slotting between her thighs like a key turning in a long-locked door. Heat bloomed where they touched, his palms sliding under her sweater, tracing the dip of her waist, the soft swell of her breasts, thumbs circling nipples that hardened under his devotion. God, Leora, he groaned against her neck, nipping the sensitive skin until she arched, a gasp escaping like a secret set free. She tugged at his shirt, baring the lean muscle of his chest, her nails grazing ridges earned from late-night builds. Desire coiled low in her belly, a liquid fire as she wrapped her legs around him, feeling his arousal press insistent against her core through denim barriers. With deliberate slowness, he peeled away her layers, worshipping each inch revealed, kissing the valley between her breasts, his tongue flicking over one peak while fingers teased the other, drawing whimpers that echoed off the rafters. Vulnerability cracked open in that moment. She whispered of the isolation in her gilded cage, how fortune's weight had left her craving touch untainted by agenda. Damien paused, eyes locking on hers, raw with his own confessions. The fear of ideas dying unborn, the loneliness of chasing horizons alone. Then let me be your dawn, he vowed, voice thick with longing as he unfastened her jeans, sliding them down with her lace, exposing her to the cool air in his heated gaze. His fingers found her slick folds first, stroking with feather-light precision that built to insistent circles around her clit, coaxing her hips to rock in rhythm. Pleasure mounted like a gathering gale, her breaths ragged as she clutched his shoulders, nails embedding crescents. Damien, more, she pleaded, vulnerability bearing her soul as much as her body. He obliged, sinking to his knees, mouth replacing fingers, tongue delving deep, lapping with fervent strokes that sent shocks through her veins. She shattered then, thighs trembling around his head, a cry tearing free as waves crashed over her, fulfillment tasting of salt and surrender. Rising, he shed his clothes in a frenzy, guiding himself to her entrance with a shared inhale. Their joining was profound, slow thrusts that stretched and filled, eyes never breaking contact, each movement a dialogue of need and trust. Faster now, urgency claiming them, her heels digging into his back as he drove deeper, their moans harmonizing in the loft's intimate echo. Climax claimed them in tandem, her walls fluttering around him, pulling his release in hot pulses that left them fused, slick and spent. In the afterglow, tangled on a nest of blueprints, he traced lazy patterns on her skin. Marry me, Leora. Not for show, for us. She said yes under star-pricked skies, hiding her legacy like a buried seed, believing love could bloom in shadowed soil. For months their world was this fever, mornings waking to his mouth between her thighs, lazy explorations that left her quivering, evenings where she'd straddle him on the workshop floor, riding the crest of his hips with languid control, drawing out his pleas until he begged for mercy. Vulnerability deepened in pillow talk confessions, her longing for roots beyond wealth, his desire to shelter her from his storms. Yet, as Crow innovations swelled with her veiled funds, subtle fissures appeared, his glances lingering on ambitious colleagues, nights where his touch felt like obligation masked as affection. Leora pushed the unease down, chalking it to launch fever. Tonight at the gala, she'd bloom fully, revealing the billionaire who'd fueled his fire, watching gratitude ignite in his eyes anew. But as the limo hummed toward the Pearl District, sapphire pendant heavy against her chest, a quiet ache stirred. What if the storm she craved had already twisted their petals? 2 years wove their passion into a silken cord, binding Leora and Damien in a rhythm as intimate as breath. The loft evolved from chaotic haven to their private sanctuary, walls now adorned with framed sketches of her wildflowers intertwined with his solar schematics, a testament to dreams merged. Mornings unfolded in languid worship, sunlight slanting through the skylight to gild their skin as Damien trailed kisses down her spine, his hands parting her thighs from behind, fingers delving into her warmth with unhurried strokes. "Wake for me, love," he'd murmur, voice husky with sleep, as his thumb circled her most sensitive spot, building her arousal until she pushed back against him, slick and yearning. Entry came in a slow glide, their bodies sinking in a dance of shallow thrusts that deepened with her sighs, her hand reaching back to grip his hip, urging him on. Vulnerability surfaced in these dawns, her admitting the phantom weight of expectations from a life she downplayed, him confessing doubts that his inventions might eclipse their quiet joys. Climax washed over her first, a shuddering wave that clenched around him, drawing his own groan of release as he spilled within, holding her close as if to anchor them both. Afternoons blurred into fevered escapes. Once, amid a rare sunny spell, they picnicked on the loft's fire escape, the city sprawling below like a lover's map. Wine loosened tongues, Damien fed her strawberries, juice staining her lips crimson, his gaze darkening with hunger. "You taste like summer," he said, pulling her onto his lap, skirts hiked as she straddled him against the wrought iron rail. The breeze teased her exposed skin, heightening every sensation. His fingers slipping beneath lace to stroke her folds, slick with anticipation, while she ground against his palm, breaths mingling in heated whispers. Longing crested as she freed him, guiding his length inside with a shared gasp, the world fading to the rock of their hips, her breasts pressing against his chest through thin fabric. Conflict flickered even then, a hesitation in his eyes when she mentioned her family trust, funding his latest prototype, quickly masked by a kiss. But she surrendered to the rhythm, nails raking his neck as pleasure coiled tight, unraveling in cries muffled against his shoulder, his hands bruising her hips in ecstatic grip. Evenings brought deeper intimacy, vulnerability laid bare in the workshop's glow. Damien would pause mid-shoulder, eyes tracing her as she reviewed his pitches. Her inputs sharp, born of shadowed boardroom wisdom she cloaked as intuition. One night, after sealing a modest investor round, her anonymous wire the linchpin, tension simmered. He poured scotch, the amber liquid catching firelight, and pulled her to the futon amid scattered wires. "You've been my shadow architect," he said, voice low with gratitude laced in awe, as he unlaced her blouse, mouth following the path to lave her collarbone. Desire flared swift, her arching into his touch, fingers threading his hair as he suckled her breast, tongue swirling the peak until it ached sweetly. "Show me how you see the future," she breathed, a challenge wrapped in need, guiding his hand between her legs where heat pooled insistent. He explored her with reverence, fingers curling inside to stroke that hidden ridge, thumb pressing rhythmic circles that had her writhing, confessions spilling like wine, her fear that wealth's isolation might starve their flame, his longing to prove himself worthy without her gifts. The admission hung, a subtle fracture, his jaw tightening at gifts, eyes flickering with unspoken questions. Yet passion overrode, her climbing atop him, sinking down in one fluid motion that seated him deep, eliciting twin moans. She set the pace, undulating with sensual control, breasts swaying as his hands roamed, palming her curves, pinching nipples to spark jolts straight to her core. Longing built in measured rolls, conflict dissolving in the slick slide of their union, until fulfillment crashed. Her pulsing around him, milking his release in hot surges, bodies collapsing in sweat-slicked tangle. But shadows lengthened as Croat innovations ballooned. Damien's days stretched, filled with networking galas where ambitious women like Vivian Lang orbited him, her auburn elegance a contrast to Lyora's understated grace. Vivian, marketing whiz with a laugh like chiming crystal, first appeared at a prototype demo, her questions probing, eyes lingering on Damien's form. Leora noticed the brush of her hand on his arm, the way he leaned in but dismissed it as professional spark. "She's sharp," he said later over takeout in the loft, his foot tracing her calf under the table, a casual intimacy that reignited warmth. That night, doubt's whisper grew, as he took her against the kitchen counter, lifting her with urgent hands, skirt rucked up, his thrusts fervent but distracted, mind elsewhere. She came with a muffled cry, legs locked around him, but his release felt perfunctory, eyes distant even in afterglow. Vulnerability peaked in a quiet confrontation, rain lashing windows like accusations. Lyora curled against him on the futon, sapphire pendant, her sole heirloom, cool between her breasts. "Do you ever wonder who I am beyond this?" she asked, fingers tracing his jaw. Damien stiffened, then softened, pulling her closer. You're everything, Leora. My anchor. His kiss deepened, hands wandering to part her thighs, fingers slipping inside with familiar ease, stroking until she trembled. But as pleasure built, his phone buzzed, Vivian's name flashing, and he glanced away, rhythm faltering. She climaxed alone in that breach, fulfillment hollow, conflict blooming like thorns. The gala loomed, a glittering precipice. Leora planned her revelation meticulously. After his pitch, she'd step forward, pendant aglow, declaring her as the veiled investor whose billions had birthed his vision. Gratitude would mend the rifts, desire reignite unshadowed. She dressed that evening in midnight silk that clung like a second skin, the gown's plunge framing the sapphire's fire. Damien's text arrived curt. Running late, meet me there. Knock 'em dead. No endearment, no fire. As the limo cut through neon rain, longing twisted with unease. Had she guarded her truth too long, letting doubt's roots choke their bloom? The Pearl District's waterfront venue shimmered like a jewel in Portland's embrace, its glass facade reflecting the Willamette's inky flow under sodium lamps. Chandeliers dripped prisms across marble floors, where venture capitalists in tailored wool mingled with tech profits, champagne flutes catching light like captured stars. Leora descended the limo steps, silk gown whispering against her legs, sapphire pendant a cool weight against fevered skin. Heads turned, subtle appreciations of her raven waves and storm sea eyes, but she sought only one gaze amid the throng. Damien held court near the stage, charisma radiating, his laugh a low thunder drawing nods from men whose fortunes could eclipse moons. She wove through the crowd, heart a staccato drum of anticipation, when murmurs snared her from a velvet-curtained alcove. His voice, rich and mocking, entwined with a woman's silken purr. Heart plummeting, Leora edged closer, the heavy drape parting just enough to frame the scene in cruel clarity. Damien and Vivian pressed against the chaise's brocade, her auburn tresses spilling over his shoulder as his mouth claimed hers in a kiss of conquest. Vivian's skirt rode high, thigh hooked around his hip, his hand vanishing beneath to elicit a throaty gasp. She's so sweetly oblivious, Damien rasped, breaking for air, fingers working her buttons open to expose lace-cupped curves. Thinks her tips and quiet support make her indispensable. Pathetic how she clings, funding my climb while I climb you. Vivian's laugh peeled, nails raking his neck as she palmed him through trousers, stroking the evident bulge with teasing slowness. And after tonight, you'll shed the dowdy wife for someone who matches your ascent. Like me. Their mouths crashed again, urgent and devouring, Damien's free hand cupping her breast, thumb rolling the nipple to a taut peak amid her arching moan. Betrayal's venom flooded Leora's veins, hot and nauseating. The man who'd mapped her body with oaths now desecrated their bond, his arousal stark evidence of divided loyalties. Numbness cloaked her as she stepped back, heels silent on carpet, the alcove's drape falling like a final curtain. Back in the gala's glow, she claimed a flute of bubbles, the fizz biting her tongue like accusation. Damien took the stage soon after, projector beams gilding his features as he unveiled Crow Innovation's solar grid. Slides Leora had refined in shadowed hours, her veiled billions, the invisible scaffold. Applause swelled, genuine and thunderous, but to her ears it mocked. Vivian lingered at the wings, lips bruised, gaze possessive as she adjusted her bodice. He found her amid the post-pitch crush, hand grazing her waist with proprietary ease. There you are, my muse. The crowd's electric, deals closing left and right. His breath carried Vivian's jasmine, eyes alight with conquest, oblivious to the fracture in her stance. Leora turned, sapphire winking accusation. Electric indeed. Care to share the charge from your alcove interlude? Damien's smile faltered, calculation flickering like a shorted wire. Leora, what? We need privacy, she cut in, voice a silken lash, steering him to a service quarter where the party's jazz faded to muffled pulse. Door clicked shut. He pressed her against cool plaster, mouth seeking hers in desperate salvage. Let me fix this, he growled, hands roaming her gown's plunge, fingers dipping to tease lace edges, arousal stirring against her thigh. For a fractured instant, memory betrayed, body heating under his touch, nipples peaking as thumb brushed a sensitive curve. She could almost yield, let him hike silk and bury deep, thrusts erasing the venom in frantic reunion. But clarity sliced through. She wrenched free, palm connecting with his cheek in a crack that echoed. Fix what? The lies? The mockery? Damien reeled, hand to jaw, eyes widening in feigned shock. It was nothing. A slip in the heat. Vivian pushes, but you're my heart. He stepped closer, voice dropping to that gravel plea, fingers trailing her arm in entreaty. Remember our lofts? Your skin under mine, the way you shatter around me? Longing warred in her chest, conflict a vice. Desire for the man he'd been clashing with, revulsion for the fraud. You called me pathetic, she whispered, venom lacing each word, sapphire burning like judgment. Plotted my discard while spending my tips. The billions I hid to let you love me true. His face drained, realization dawning. Billions? Lyora, you're... Denial crumbled into greed's gleam, quickly veiled. We can work through this. Let me show you. He dropped to knees, hands sliding up her calves, bunching silk to expose thighs. Breath ghosting lace as tongue flicked, tentative. A traitorous shiver rippled. Ghost of past devotions, where he'd coaxed her to ecstasy, lips and tongue unraveling her until she flooded his mouth in quaking release. She yanked him up by collar, eyes blazing. Your shows are over, Damien. So is us. Leaving him slumped in the corridor's gloom, she re-emerged into light, numbness fracturing into resolve. That night, loft silent as a tomb, she breached his desk, emails to Vivian scorching. Tonight's thrill pales to bearing in you post-funding. She'll be yesterday's shadow. Forged signatures on loans, her name twisted for credit. A PI dossier pre-wedding, profiling her as pliable mark, downplay fortune, exploit trust. Dawn broke crimson as she photographed the rot. First call to Cael, he's poisoned the root. Uproot him. Betrayal's sting morphed to purpose. Vulnerability forging armor. But in the quiet, longing lingered. For the love she'd believed, the touches that once healed. Fulfillment would come, not in forgiveness, but in flames of her own making. Hey, kindred hearts, if this twist of trust and fire stirs your soul, smash that like button and share with a lover who's weathered storms. What's the deepest secret you've kept for love? Comment below. Your truths inspire our next chapter. And if you're not subscribed, join the flame. Hit that button and never miss a heartbeat. The Cael estate clung to Oregon's rugged coast like a sentinel carved from sea and stone. Cliffs plummeting to foam-lashed shores, glass walls framing the Pacific's endless roar. Lyora arrived as dusk bled purple across the horizon, limo crunching gravel under tires heavy with escape. Lowen waited on the driftwood porch, her silver-streaked hair catching the last light, arms opening like harbors long denied. My fierce one, she murmured, enfolding Lyora in earth-scented embrace, the botanist's touch a balm to raw edges. Inside, the house breathed familiarity, lemon-polished halls winding to solariums where orchids bloomed defiant, their petals a silent sermon on rebirth. Over chamomile in the glass-enclosed study, waves crashing below like rhythmic confessions. Lyora unburdened. Elowen's eyes, green as heirloom jade, held steady through the tale. Coffee shop spark, loft passions, veiled billions funneled as trust whispers. The alcove's venomous tableau. He didn't just betray flesh, Lyora finished, voice threading steel through tears. He mocked the woman I became for him. Small, to let him shine. Elowen set her cup down, knuckles paling on porcelain. Darling, you shrank a sun to candlelight. Now let it blaze. Cael arrived by chopper's whir, salt wind whipping his dark coat, Soren veil at his flank, laptop harbinger of hidden truths. The study transformed to war council. Lyora's photos projected on sea-view screens, forgeries glaring like fresh wounds. Soren's fingers danced keys, unraveling threads. Damien's siphons to Cayman shadows. Vivian's missives laced with rival firms' codes. Sabotage veiled as seduction. Not mere affair, Soren said. Screens blooming data blooms. Corporate Viper backdoored his prototype for data theft. He's pawn or fool. Kai's laugh was low thunder. Either way, we claim the board. Embers kindled that first night, vulnerability cracking open in the estate's hidden cove. A crescent beach where bioluminescent plankton danced like fallen stars on ink-black waves. Lyora wandered there alone, gown traded for linen shift, bare feet sinking into cool sand, sapphire glinting under moon's caress. Footsteps crunched. Ronan Quill emerged from mist-shrouded path, Kai's ally, venture seer with poet's gaze, body honed by cliff trails, his linen shirt open at throat to reveal sun-bronzed skin. Mine company in the glow? He asked, voice a gentle current, eyes tracing her silhouette with respect, not predation. She nodded, drawn to his quiet strength, the way he mirrored her unrest without probing. They walked the tide's edge, foam kissing ankles, conversation unfurling like kelp in current. His strategies for green tech ascents, her buried longings for partnerships untainted by deceit. You've armored heartbreak with grace, Ronan said, pausing to face her, sea spray beating his lashes. Zaire flickered, subtle as plankton's spark, his hand brushing hers, sending warmth up her arm. Let the waves remind you, even after storms, shores heal. Moon climbed, they sank to sand, backs against weathered log, the ocean's lullaby weaving intimacy. Ronan's fingers traced a seashell's curve in her palm, mirroring the path to her wrist, pulse leaping under touch. Tell me to halt, he breathed. Closer now, breath mingling with salt air. Vulnerability surged, Leora's hand cupping his jaw, thumb grazing stubble, pulling him into a kiss that tasted of brine and budding hope. Slow, exploratory, tongues tangling in tentative fire, his palms sliding to her nape, angling deeper as she melted against him. Heat bloomed insistent. Ronan eased her shift's strap down, mouth following to nuzzle collarbone, eliciting shivers that had nothing to do with chill. Beautiful storm, he whispered, lips charting the swell of her breast, tongue circling nipple to a hardened bud, drawing a gasp that echoed over waves. Leora's fingers wove his hair, arching into the sensation, longing uncoiling low, conflict whispering of fresh wounds, swiftly drowned in his reverence. He shifted, parting her thighs with knee, hand delving beneath linen to find her slick folds, fingers stroking with exquisite patience, circling clit in rhythms that built like incoming tide. Pleasure mounted in gasps, her hips canting into his touch, vulnerability bearing in murmurs. It's been shadows. Show me light. Ronan met her gaze, eyes dark with shared ache, sliding 2 fingers deep, curling against that inner spark while thumb maintained its torment. Waves of bliss crested, her cry mingling with surf as she fractured, body quaking in release, plankton igniting around them like celebratory fireflies. He withdrew gently, shedding shirt to bare torso corded with quiet power, guiding her hand to his straining need. But she rose, pressing him back, shift pooling at feet, moonlight gilding her curves as she straddled, vulnerability yielding to agency, sinking onto him inch by deliberate inch, stretch and fill profound, their groans harmonizing with sea's roar. She set languid pace, rolling hips in sensual waves, breasts swaying as his hands roamed, palming, kneading, thumbs teasing peaks to spark fresh jolts. Longing deepened in locked eyes, conflict dissolving in the intimate glide, fulfillment building in measured thrusts until she clenched around him, pulling his climax in pulsing heat, bodies shuddering in unified afterglow. Tangled on sand, his arms a shelter, Ronan confessed over wave crash. I knew of your investments early. Hail directive to shadow his rise. Watched you pour soul into him. Wanted to shield you. Twist landed soft, not blade, his longing predating fall, sparked at a gala where she danced solitary emerald silk swirling like envy. No pity, he vowed, fingers lacing hers. Admiration for the woman who builds worlds unseen. Nights blurred into sensual renaissance. Greenhouse trysts where he'd blindfold her amid orchids, feathers and lips teasing until she begged. then taking her against fog panes, thrusts urgent and deep. Library afternoons with her atop leather tomes, writing with commanding grace, drawing his pleas in velvet whispers. Emotion wove each union, desire's fire tempered by confessions, vulnerability and post-climax holds where scars were named and honored. Yet purpose sharpened, shares acquired in proxy whispers, bored whispers sown with doubt seeds. Ronan became confidant, ally, lover, his touch a promise of equals entwined. As weeks crested, Leora's embers flared to inferno. The gala's echo faded. In its place, a queen rose, ready to claim throne and heart unshadowed. 4 weeks of shadowed maneuvers culminated in the Pearl District's rematch. The same venue now a coliseum for Leora's ascension, its glass walls echoing past Venom with poised elegance. Shares had flowed to hail proxies like tributaries to sea, jittery investors unloading amid Kai's sown whispers of instability, Vivian's sabotage exposed in Soren's digital autopsy. The prototype's code a Trojan lair, data veins primed for rival harvest. Blind or bought, Soren confirmed, but your entry seals it. Leora nodded, obsidian velvet molding her form like liquid night, sapphire a flaming heart at her throat. Ronan flanked her, not ornament but equal, his presence a subtle blaze, hand brushing hers in silent vow. Boardroom doors parted, directors in crisp linen shifted at the intrusion, eyes widening on the strangers claiming seats. Damien entered last, mid-call with Vivian's ghost, his laugh dying as Leora took the head chair, once his throne. Leora, this is security. But guards, Kai's quiet plants, loomed unmoved. Gentlemen, ladies, she began, voice of velvet cascade. Leora hail. As of dawn, I hold 58% of Crow innovations. Your future aligns with mine. Chaos erupted. Damien's fist on oak. Fabrication. Notifications. Ronan interjected, tone-honed steel. Discreet transfers from willing hands. Legitimate as the deals you forged in my name. Folders circulated, Soren's presentation igniting screens, laundered trails glowing red, Vivian's encrypted plots bearing espionage teeth, forgeries in Leora's hand mocking his gall. Directors' faces cycled shock to scorn, one gray-templed veteran slamming dossier, theft, treason to trust, another boomish, data rape, your partner planted the worm. Vivian lunged for exit, auburn flashing, but Kai's shadows intercepted, her protest shrill as cuffs clicked. Damien whirled on Leora, eyes wild with cornered fury. Revenge porn from a jilted spouse. She's unstable, obsessed with our nights, the way she'd beg under me. Leora rose, gown pooling like spilled ink, circling the table with predator's grace. Spouse, the secret you hoarded to hawk Singleton charm. Investor, the billions that scaffolded your smoke. Hail, silent sun, behind your flicker. Sapphire caught light like drawn blood. Directors recoiled, votes tumbling like felled timber. Motion to excise Mr. Crow carried unanimous. He lunged, grasping her wrist, voice cracking plea. Leora, wait, the loft, your cries when I'd fill you slow, the taste of you on my tongue. We were real. Vulnerability twisted her gut, conflict roaring, echo of lofts where desire had been sacrament, now profane. She wrenched free, leaning close, breath ghosting his ear. Real, you soiled it with her moans, your greed, burn in your ashes. Security claimed him, his shrieks, you'll regret this, witch, fading down halls like defeated echoes. Board dispersed in stunned accord, seeding reins. Leora turned to Ronan amid the hush, adrenaline a live wire between them. Magnificent, he murmured, backing her against floor-to-ceiling windows. City lights a glittering audience below. His kiss claimed, fierce, devouring, hands hiking velvet to bare thighs, fingers tracing lace edges with urgent reverence. Let triumph taste you. Desire ignited swift. She yielded, arching as he dropped to knees, parting fabric with teeth, mouth descending in fervent worship. Tongue laving folds, sucking clit with insistent pulls, that had her keening, fingers bruising his scalp. Pleasure spiraled, vulnerability peaking in gasps. Ronan, see me whole. He delved deeper, fingers joining tongue to curl inside, stroking sparks until she shattered. Thighs quaking around him, release flooding hot and unbridled. Rising, he freed himself, guiding her hand to his throbbing length, silk-sheathed steel pulsing under her stroke. But she spun him, pressing his back to glass, dropping to reciprocate, lips enveloping him in wet heat, tongue swirling crown as she took him deep, hollowed cheeks drawing groans that rattled pains. Conflict's remnants burned away in his pleas. Lyora, gods, your mouth. Fulfillment in the power of his unraveling, salt spilling as she swallowed, gaze locked upward in shared fire. He pulled her up, spinning to lift her against the window, cool pain-kissing spine as he thrust home in one profound stroke, stretch exquisite amid her cry. Rhythm built primal, deep drives that pinned her legs locked at his waist, nails scoring shoulders through shirt. Vulnerability wove through urgency. I choose this, you, she confessed amid moans, his response a growled vow. Always my blaze. As pace quickened, hips snapping in slick union. Climax crashed dual, her walls fluttering wild, pulling his hot surge deep, bodies locked in shuddering afterglow, city witnessing their forge. In the suite's hush, Ronan held her, fingers tracing Sapphire's chain. No more veils. Flames banked to embers, reckoning complete. Damien's empire hers to rebirth, heart's throne claimed by truth's light. Rebirth christened Crow as Hail Lumina, a phoenix unfurling solar wings over Portland's gridlocked veins. Lyora's first decree purged venom. Vivian's firm crumbled under antitrust fangs, assets clawed back in civil sweeps. Damien's remnants, loft prototypes, dissolved to restitution dust. Employees once ensnared in fraud's web exhaled under new air. Town halls and sunlit atria where Lyora pledged transparency, profit cascades sharing gains like communal harvests. You built on sand, she told assembled faces, voice warm steel. We raised cathedrals on stone. Challenges loomed, investors demanding refunds, prototypes gutted by sabotage's worm. But Ronan's counsel steadied. Pivot to your vision, not his echo. Engineering nights stretched. Lyora sleeves rolled amid circuits, her botany lens birthing hybrid panels, solar petals mimicking leaf veins for efficiency's bloom. Romance threaded the grind, stolen lab moments where Ronan cornered her against drafting tables, mouth hot on neck, hands delving skirts to stroke her to quaking edges before claiming her bent over blueprints, thrusts measured and deep, whispers of proud of your fire amid her gasps. Twist's shadow resurfaced mid-rebuild. Theo Voss, sculptor from her pre-Damien days, surfaced at a Lumina showcase, marble hands veined like rivers, eyes holding old embers. Heard your rise, he said over gallery wine, voice a sculptor's chisel. Let me carve something for your halls. Dinner followed. By the way, his studio a cavern of forms half-born, air thick with clay and memory. Vulnerability drew her in, Theo's touch familiar, uncomplicated, as he molded wet earth to her palm, fingers lingering. You were light I chased, he confessed, pulling her close, kiss blooming soft, then searing. Zaire crested unchecked, against studio wall, clay-smeared hands hiking her dress, mouth devouring breasts through silk as she arched, longing for simplicity's balm. He knelt, tongue tracing thighs to core, lapping with artist's precision. Broad strokes building to flicking torment until she bucked, climax ripping free in clay-dusted cry. Entry followed urgent, her legs around waist, his drive steady and exploratory, bodies slick in creative frenzy. Fulfillment washed bittersweet, his release warm within, but conflict stirred. This was diversion, not depth. Dawn found her slipping away, Theo's sleep murmurs a gentle farewell. Not my harbor, she whispered to rising sun, heart tugging toward Ronan's steady flame. Resolution came in cliffside confession, waves applauding below. Ronan listened, no jealousy, only deeper hold as he drew her to mossy outcrop. Your ocean, Leora. Tides pull, but choose your shore. Their union that eve was sacrament. Slow undress under stars, bodies mapping anew, his mouth everywhere, teasing nipples to peaks, fingers and tongue coiling her release thrice before sheathing deep, face-to-face thrusts that bared souls. Mine by choice, he groaned, her fulfillment clenching him over edge, vulnerability sealed in tears and tender holds. Lumina soared by quarter's end, first contracts lighting district blocks, press hailing Lyora's ethical dawn. Women flocked, mentees sharing boardroom scars, her fireside chats weaving empowerment from shared wounds. Morals crystallized, love demands truth's soil, power blooms in authenticity's light. Damien's ghost whispered via tabloid scraps. Retail drudgery, pleas ignored. But Leora felt indifference's peace, dominion not in ruin but rise. 1 year post-Venom, Hail Lumina's anniversary gala reclaimed the pearl, chandeliers now hail prisms, halls alive with ethical accords and women's networks blooming like solar fields. Leora surveyed from dais, velvet gown a nod to origins, sapphire twin to Ronan's cufflink glint. Partners toasted her vision. Employees danced with renewed fire. Yet Damien slunk through shadows. Gaunt, cheap suit hanging loose, eyes hollow as beggar's cup. He cornered her by dessert trays, voice a rasp. Lyora, mercy, enough, anything. Our lofts, your surrender in my arms. Doesn't that linger? She met his gaze, Ronan's hand warm at her back, indifference a crown heavier than gold. Linger? Like your alcove's echo? No, Damien. You mocked the seed, I grew the forest. Security ushered him out, pleas dissolving to whimpers, the crowd none the wiser to the footnotes fade. Later, penthouse hush enveloped them, city sprawl, a conquered sea below. Ronan drew her to furs by hearth, undressing with lover's leisure, gown pooling, his lips charting every curve, suckling breasts to sweet ache before laying her back. Straddling reverse, she took him deep, grinding with regal slowness, his hands worshipping hips, thumbs circling clit in harmony. Desire's symphony built, vulnerability and backward glance. Our horizon, eternal. Fulfillment crested shared, her pulsing, his spilling in waves, collapse a tangle of limbs and laughs. As dawn gilded spires, Leora traced his chest, moral clear. Betrayal forges, but choice crowns. You've walked my flames, now claim yours. If this romance's blaze touched your core, like for the lovers who rise, share with a heart-needing dawn. Comment your hidden strength, we build legends together. Subscribers, your light endures. Newcomers, subscribe to chase horizons with us. Until next whisper, love fiercely, live unveiled.